Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Chasing Collectibles Catchup. I'm Tyler, and we have probably our most frequent guest ever at this point, Chris Rigo, with us today. So, Chris, thanks for coming on once again.
Tyler, thanks for having me. Yeah, I mean, I've joked about this before, but if there was this like SNL with the five-time jacket, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know how many times it's been, but happy to be back, and thanks for having me.
yes, we at some point. I know there is a Chasing Collectibles shirt, so maybe at this point we should get it for you, and you could, as you're working at your booth, you could have the shirt on and kind of confuse people.
Hey, that's okay.
Uh,
I mean, I wear a size large, and I like the color black. So I mean, if you got anything like that, I'll take
yes,
it.
we will definitely investigate. Um, Well, before we jump to the main topic today, I do want to ask, we're about a quarter of the way done with the year, and I know you and Sarah are like rock stars when it comes to your convention appearances, where sometimes you guys like double up and everything. So how's the year going for you guys so far in 2026?
Oh, it's going really good. Our March was our best month ever since we've been doing this, and we've been doing
Nice.
this for over a decade. It was kind of a weird start to the year just because, uh, you know, uh, North Carolina or the Carolinas in general swings wide. So some of the
Yeah.
January and February stuff kind of got shifted around, but March was slammed. We did 7 events, multiple double headers. One was a triple play, and
Wow.
April is shaping up to be a very good month as well. So we're doing it. I think we're at like 13 events for the year or something. But again, things kind of got a little messed up at the beginning.
Yeah.
But yeah, things are good.
Nice. And there was a show in Rock Hill in March, if I remember correctly, that was okay from
It
what I
was,
remember.
yeah. So, Nerd Fest was great. Thanks for chasing collectibles and Nerdford for putting that on. But yeah, that
Yes.
was actually that was our best Nerd Fest. So that was the third one you guys have put on
Yep.
so far, and it was by far the best. I mean, I thought just the vibes and stuff were really good too. So yeah, it was fantastic, man. Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. I'm still kind of like in that mode of like still promoting it. So like I don't know if that's just instinct for me to mention it at this point. But I don't think we've said officially when the next one will be, and I don't think that's my job, but I think it's gonna be in October.
Oh
So
yeah.
we're excited about it. So
I'm
you guys
excited
have,
too,
I'm sure
man.
you have the date. I just don't know if I'm allowed to say just yet, but it will be in October.
Yeah,
So
I'll be there.
it's
I'll be there.
excellent.
Yeah, wouldn't miss it.
Um,
Yeah.
we also got Charlotte Comic Con coming up in April. So Dave and Rick's show is one of the ones in April. And
Yeah.
then coming up after that in May, the Concord Micro Con's coming up, which is the 10th one you've done of that, which is awesome.
Yeah. So it'll be the ninth year at Carbarrus Brewing Company, and the first year we did it, it was at a different location. But yeah, May 2nd at Carbarrus Brewing Company,
Nice.
325 McGill Avenue. It's real close to downtown Concord. It's part of the Gibson Mill complex, which if you've never been there, I mean the largest antique mall in the southeast is there. It's called the Depot. But yeah, it'll be about 70 vendors, 11 to 5, free admission. We'll have food trucks out there. And Cabarrus Brewing Company, it's a massive brewery. We use two different buildings and then two different floors, artists upstairs. So yeah,
Yeah.
looking forward to keeping that going and stuff. Yeah.
No, it's been a great. And we did an episode a couple months back with Derek and Tim talking about like how you try to make conventions, I guess, a little bit more different and exciting these days. And I feel like your show, well, all of your shows in general, but I mean I feel like the Concord one's like the biggest of the ones you do. And it's the vibe's always great. It's cool. You can walk from building to building. You've got the beer, obviously. You've got the food trucks. Just awesome vibes in general. It's been great to be a part of it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you guys can do it and stuff, and I'm I'm really thankful to have expanded to Kannapolis and Monroe and stuff too. And I really love having as much space, to work with that Cabarrus has now. And that's a weird thing too with like doing it for so many years consecutively. I mean,
Hmm.
Cabarrus Brewing Company has changed a bunch. When they first started, they didn't have a restaurant inside, so there was like a space for like 10 vendors. Now it's different, but they didn't have the kettle room, which is a private event space. And then those COVID years were like most people were outside. It was insane. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's kind of rolling with the punches and growing with the fishbowl that you're swimming in. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And I mean, I'm a sucker for doing events at like untraditional venues and
Yeah.
you know people wanting to hang out for a little while and stuff. So thankful
right.
for it, and glad it's still going.
Yeah. And just one more thing on that too, just to speak to you and Sarah as well. Just like I feel like you guys do an awesome job of like everyone in the comic book community wants to help one another when it comes to like events and stuff. And you've always done an awesome job when it comes to like promoting not just your round of shows that you do, but also like other people's stuff. And it's great to see that relationship. And we're super excited to be there as Chasing Collectibles, and it will be at that one will be, and I think we're at all the other ones as well. So we're just super excited for you and appreciate you.
Yeah, I think I mean from a it's almost like the vendor's responsibility, like too, like when you're setting up at other events to like
Hmm.
let people know that you're going to be someplace. So yeah, I always like doing like a monthly convention calendar, and uh you want to bring some people out to the show too. Like obviously the promoter and the showrunner should be doing that. That's their main job, but you want to do your part too, just because. So, but
Right.
yeah, I mean, it's all about lifting each other up and the synergy, between stuff. So I'm
Right.
all about
Well,
it.
it's like, at any show, like it's if you're a vendor, you want the show to be as packed as possible because then that increases the vibes are going to be better, the sales going to be better.
Hmm.
So, it's better for everybody, the promoter, the guests, the everybody involved for the show to have as many people as possible.
Absolutely, there's no doubt about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So last year we had a lot of fun doing this because I know we've done like interviews before, but this we kind of did more of a theme last year when you came on, and we
Hmm.
kind of did like a comics 101 thing, which is like a survey course for like if you're new to comics, what here's an hour long video to give you the highlights. So I thought today we kind of do like we could call this comics 201, a little bit more of an advanced class talking
Okay.
about the buying and selling of comics.
Okay.
Because I've been looking at, I look at Facebook Marketplace, I look at eBay, and I've noticed some things with pricings that's made me kind of like raise an eyebrow. And we both have like experience over the years of like buying and selling, whether it was like us with Chasing Collectibles or like when I worked for Nick with Nickel Spot.
Hmm.
People have ideas of like, oh, my comics are worth X, but in reality, you offer them Y. So I thought we kind of do a little deep dive into that more behind the scenes world there.
Sounds
And
great.
let's start off with just like in general, before we get into the actual buying and selling, what determines the price of a comic? Like, if I go on eBay and I see a comic book and, it is currently, I don't know, $10, right? Why is it going to be $10, for example?
Okay. Well, I think that the value of, I would say, almost any collectible, but especially with comic books, it depends first and foremost on how culturally important and significant that book is. So, like if it's like the first appearance of a character, like for example, I mean, this is the New Mutants 98, the first appearance of Deadpool. I mean, it's a
Yeah,
modern book, and a lot of modern books don't have a lot of value because they overprinted it, but it's the first appearance of a character that's very popular, and it's transitioned into film, animation, video games. There's all kinds of stuff. So, number one is the importance in just pop culture and stuff in the world. And
right.
then when you break it down too, condition is the next thing that's going to be important. So, like this book right here, again, first appearance of Deadpool, and it's a 9.4. So I mean, it's a decent grade. It's high grade. It's not a 9.8. Um, but condition is the next most important thing. A lot of people, they associate rarity with value. And sometimes that's true, but a lot of the times, it's supply and demand. Again,
Yeah,
like that New Mutants 98, again, I mean, there's a ton of those books out there, but a lot of people want it. So you could
right.
have the rarest comic book in the world, this weird indie book, but if no one wants it, no one's going to pay anything for it.
Yeah,
So cultural significance and then condition is the next factor. Yeah.
right. And I like that you use like cultural significance because you used that last time too. And I think that's like a better way to put it because like that kind of shows why like sometimes prices go up and sometimes they go down. I had this
Oh,
book
yeah.
out the other day when I was filming a video because this was like the first comic book I ever bought. This is Thor 617. And it was like when I first got into buying comics, I was like, oh, I'll start reading this. It was like a freshman in high school in 2011, which I hope that doesn't make anyone feel a certain way.
Makes me feel
Uh,
very old, but that's okay. Yeah.
um, but for a little bit, this book was like going for $30, $40 because like the kid Loki appeared in a TV show. And I
Oh,
had
yeah.
no intention of selling it, but I was like, oh, okay, that's neat.
Yeah.
And then I checked the other day just out of curiosity. Now it's like a $5, $10 book because like, it was in the culture and now it's kind of back down. So it just kind of depends. It's like a lot of these indie books, you get a lot of speculation, a lot of hype,
Hmm.
and then it kind of goes back to, the dollar range probably down the road.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of like movie hype and show hype, it's very clear to see like when something is getting up and there's maybe a trailer announced or just some buzz about it, some still, things that have like leaked, there's definitely a clear, climb up and then it kind of peaks and then it goes down. And that's just you kind of ride that wave of hype and stuff. And
Yeah.
then once the project comes out, even if it does well, it usually tapers off and then it flatlines, which is a best case scenario. There's a lot of things, it spikes and then it completely drops off. So
Right. Well,
um
was interesting a few years. I think it was 2019 because I was still working for Nick. Was when the last issue of The Walking Dead came out, and I
oh,
think it
okay.
was 192. And they didn't. What made it like go up in price was because they didn't say it was the last one until it came out. Like that day, they're like, "Hey, by the way, this is the last one," and all
Yeah,
of a
yeah, yeah.
sudden, it became like a 20, 30. It was never a huge book, but it wasn't like $100, but it was like $20 for the book
Yeah.
because all of a sudden now it's culturally significant because this is the end of this long running comic book. Um, but then afterwards, you search now and it's like $5 or whatever. I'm curious what the Absolute series will be like down the road. How long this is gonna last
Oh
because I
yeah.
know when Snyder did the New 52, that was a expensive, relatively book. You get the Batman #1 back
Sure.
then, and
Yeah.
now it's not nearly as much anymore. It's still a key, but not as much as it once was.
Yeah, I mean, I love that the absolute Batman stuff and like the absolute like universe in general has like brought in so many new readers, but and I don't like using the term investment really for almost
Hmm.
anything in life, but definitely with collectibles. But I hope that some people aren't putting too many eggs in that basket.
Hmm.
Speaking of condition and stuff too, if you go on eBay or you go to shows or whatever, there's tons of 9.8s. It's
Yeah.
almost, because it's a brand new book and people are getting them slabbed right off the newsstand. But yeah, people gotta live their lives. So if they want to like invest their money in it, that's cool. But yeah, I also speaking of Walking Dead, like Invincible is super hot right now, and
Hmm.
that's the thing. That title came out a good while ago, but I'm also interested how long, because even those books that like books in that run that are like not keys at all, they go for a lot, and if you have them, they are
Yeah.
gone instantly. So but yeah, the new
Yeah.
season of that just dropped, and it's been amazing so far. So
Yeah. I've not started watching it just yet, but I've been meaning to. But that's another one of those where you're like, if someone comes up to us like, "Hey, do you have any Invincible?" I think we sell those pretty quickly we don't have them very often, but when we do, it's like, all right, they're gone.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so let's talk a little bit then. Like now we know how the pricing works. And I'm sure we could really do an hour-long video just on that. But that's another course. So I've noticed, particularly on Facebook Marketplace, that you might see comics that are listed for a certain price that just don't move. Like people might say, like, "Oh, I've got these comics," and this isn't really a dig at anybody because I think it's sometimes it's just like you don't know what you don't know.
sure.
But people maybe will come into comics, or maybe it's their own personal collection, and they put like, "Oh, this is definitely worth X," but then they don't move. So I guess like with that said, what's the benefit of selling your collection to a vendor and or a comic book store rather than trying to like do that, put it on Facebook Marketplace or put it on eBay? Like why do that rather than try to do it yourself?
Well, first of all, Facebook Marketplace is kind of crazy. I mean, you see some like, dollar books and people are getting, they're trying to ask $100, or people are just like
Hmm.
really ignorant towards it and they don't realize, oh, this is a reprint or this is,
Yeah.
whatever. I would say the biggest benefit, and again, you always need to kind of, look around a little bit because everyone pays different percentages, but the positive to selling to a shop or a dealer is they'll buy it all in almost all circumstances. So, you know, time is money, and that's with
Yeah.
anything in life. And if you want to maximize your profit with anything in life, you're going to have to put time and effort into it. And if it's something like, you inherited, or you got it at a storage, auction or something, and you don't really care, and you just want to turn it over quickly. That's a great method.
Right.
If you want to maximize your profit, you need to do that. But even, to maximize it, there's all these different nuances with, are you going to sell it online? Are you going to start setting up at shows? And if
Mhm.
you aren't familiar with it, again, one of the big factors with value is condition, and you have to be able to grade something, relatively accurately. Um, or if you sell it online, you're going to, get returns or negative feedback, or,
Mhm.
so on and so forth. But yeah, the main benefit to selling to a dealer or a shop, someone that is doing this, full time as a profession, is just the ease of the transaction. You don't have to lug all these long boxes around, or, whatever. And I always suggest to people too, if you are taking a collection someplace to sell, you know, you want to move it all, because you don't want someone just to cherry pick the stuff that makes the collection worth buying, and that can happen. So I would always, if you're going that route, you want to sell all of it at one time, one go, not piecemealing it out. So,
Right.
because again, if you're going to do that, you might as well just sell it all your own and maximize your profits.
Yeah.
So
Well,
selling to a dealer or a shop, it's your convenience fee. You're not gonna get 110% of what something's worth, because there's rent, there's booth rent, there's gas, there's time, there's effort, there's all these different things that go into it.
mhm. Well, yeah, and I think so. I teach econ, and one of the things we talk about is opportunity cost, is like what you're giving up when you do something, and what you really, if you decide to take that route where you want to sell your comics yourself, like you said, there's a lot that goes into it. So, like, let's say you're someone who has like a 9 to 5, I'm gonna say normal job, just like because most people aren't involved in selling comics, and you've got these comic books. You're going to have to be maintaining an eBay page. You're going to have to be shipping them. You're going to have to be go maybe even you decide to go to, like you said, go to a convention or a show or what have you, and that's just going to take a lot of time.
Hmm.
And as we'll get into in the next question, like typically when if you decide to sell to a dealer, they are not going to give you, exact like the raw value of what your books are, because ultimately that dealer needs to turn a profit. I remember when I worked, whether for Nickel Spot or like chasing collectibles, people might say like, well, I looked this up on eBay and it's $100, so I'm asking for $100. I think most people understand that that's not how it works. It's like, okay, it's 100. Can you give me 60 or whatever? Um, but that's the thing, is like you are doing a trade off where, like, yes, you aren't getting the 100% value of what your books are worth, but think about your time, what it would
Yep.
take for you to sell every individual thing. Like I've got a collection, and even I wonder, like, if I ever sold it, long long way down the road, if I'm still selling books at that point, what am I doing? I might just be like, hey, here's a dealer I know, you'll give me a fair shake, and let's call it a day.
Yeah, yeah.
So I guess let's talk about that too. I guess what is you kind of touched on a little bit, but why exactly are dealers not giving you, if my book is for, my book is going for $100 on eBay, why are you not giving me $100 when I sell it to you?
Yeah, again, it's your time, it's all the cost associated with it. Booth rent at conventions, it's not cheap. Well, sometimes it's
Mhm.
cheap, but a lot of the times it's not very cheap. I mean, especially some of these big, like for example, like the Heroes Convention. It is an amazing show, but it costs a lot, and it's also, now, since you load it on Wednesdays, it's Wednesday through Sunday, so it's a 5-day event if you're a dealer. Um, I mean, it's just you want to have some meat left on the bone that you can play with, because that's really the whole point. if,
Mm.
if you're buying a collection and that's what you're doing, you want to come, you don't want to just be in the black, you want to be in the green. So
Right.
just the time and the effort, the cost of it, like we don't have a standalone brick and mortar, but we've got 2 booths at antique malls, and selling stuff there. I mean, there's your rent, plus they take a percentage. If you're selling on eBay or going through really any, a big auction house or whatever, there's the cost associated with it. So, and that's the thing too, like if you see like a heritage sale, or you see an eBay sale, or anything in between, you can refine it to look at the, what did this sell for? But you have to keep in mind that there's taxes and there's fees associated with it. So just
Yeah.
because you see $100, that doesn't even mean the seller got that much. There's stuff coming out of that. So, you
Right.
just have to be mindful of that. And, some people are aware of that, some people aren't. And, again, to go back to values and stuff, if you're looking at, something like eBay, you can list something up for anything. It doesn't mean it
Right.
actually sold for it. So you need to refine it to look at actual sold listings within the last 90 days. Because again, like talking about books that are popular, the hype train and stuff, things can fluctuate
Yeah.
very widely and dangerously. So, yeah, you need to be aware of that. But just the overall overhead of just the cost of business and stuff.
Yeah. Well, too, I think that you also want as a dealer, you want room to like um give deals at a show. You
Oh,
think about so many
yes.
times where like someone's like, okay, you got $50 on this book, can you do 40? And you're like, most times like, okay, sure, whatever. But if your margin on a book is like, hey, I bought this for 50 and now you want me to sell it to you for 40, it's you might be more hesitant, or you make that conclusion and like, all right, now I'm technically down $10, and it's a lot of like calculations you have to make as a dealer when buying and selling as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Sarah was just set up at a convention in Boone, and there was a small dealer, and he just wanted to sell everything that he had. And Sarah's like, okay, and gave a price. And Sarah didn't even look through the boxes. It's like, okay, that's fine. You got to take it all, take it all. And there was some good stuff in there, nothing huge, but there were a couple like $150 books. And then last weekend in Hickory, I sold most of those, but like one I had priced at $150, and the guy was like, "Would you take 70?" And I'm like, "Yeah," and that's less than half price. And I mean, if you know me, what you do, I mean, I like to say it shows I'm cheap and easy,
Right.
and I'll cut it down. It just doesn't matter. So like again, sometimes your margins are better or worse,
Yeah.
and I know when I'm buying like a bigger book, like if it's already slabbed and whatever, I mean the percentage is going to be much higher that you're
Yeah.
offering, because if it's already slabbed and it's already a big book, instead of like those blind buys, or you got to buy it all and like, well, what is in it? I don't know. Like, okay,
Yeah.
so
Was
sometimes a deal is just good enough. You just got to take it, and then other times it's
yeah.
like, okay, well, we're paying up for this. But yeah,
Well,
you
some
want to
books,
have some room. Yeah, you have
yeah.
to
Well,
have
some
some room.
books too. You buy it and then like you don't know how long are you going to have this book, because some the more hot ticket items, if it's a big key that a lot of
Oh,
people like, usually like I know like Batman, Spider-Man, they move very quickly. Typically, like the big keys of those. But if it's a book that maybe it's worth the buy, but it's going to sit with you for a while, that's also a calculation you got to make.
oh yeah, yeah. There was and I try not to sit on books for more than like 3 months or something. That's kind of like
Hmm.
the time frame I have in my mind. But a couple weekends ago in Greensboro, I sold a giant size X-Men, and it was a great book, but I had been carrying that around since October. But that's also my favorite book. I was a little proud on the price, but
Yeah.
no apologies. Yeah, the guy was super thrilled with it. But yeah, exactly. Some stuff is more liquid. So you were bringing up Spider-Man and Batman. Those titles, I mean, if it's the Golden Age or Silver Age Batman, they move quick.
Yeah, they're
Silver Age,
gone.
say what?
I said they're just gone. I mean,
Oh yeah,
they
yeah. You
move
can't keep
quickly.
them in
Yeah.
stock. Yeah, and then Silver Age, Silver or Bronze Age Spider-Man. I would say that is the most liquid title that there is. Period. So if someone comes to you with an amazing Spider-Man collection, I mean, make it happen, because
Right.
those books. I mean, again, and that's a good example of someone or a situation where you might have to pay up a little bit more, but guess what? You are not going to be holding on to that stuff for very long.
Yeah.
Um, there was a collection, gosh, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, but it was a complete Amazing Spider-Man collection from the original run out in Cary, North Carolina.
Wow.
And I mean, that was a five-figure deal. And it's like, okay, well, I mean, it's all the Spider-Man, so let's
Yeah.
do it. But it's not dollar box digging or whatever. But again,
Right.
all of those moved within like a month. They're
Mhm.
gone. So,
But I think one thing too that maybe I was a little surprised with when I first started being involved in like buying and selling, and I think I saw this from Nick, was when he would like someone would come in like, hey, here are some books. I was surprised at like how fast the process would happen, where people like he would look through the books. And I kind of learned early on, like, oh, he's looking for like a few books. Like you could have sometimes all it takes is like one book. And it's like, okay, this is worth buying the collection.
yeah.
So I wonder if you could talk on that a little bit about the importance of like having those like important books in a collection that really makes it sell.
Yeah, so the term that I use, I call it like an anchor book or anchor books in a collection, and this kind of goes back to what we were talking about. Like with if you're bringing your books to a shop or a dealer, you don't want them to cherry pick.
Mm.
Try to get them to buy everything, so that you still have those anchor books that make the collection worth buying. So, for example, like let's say that you've got $300 books or $3,000 books, and everything else that you have in that collection is 50 cent, dollar, maybe even up to $5 stuff. Just your cheap table stock. Well, it's not something to get very excited about or motivated about buying.
Mhm.
But let's say there's a Hulk 181 or again a New Mutants 98, something that gets some money moving. Well, you can pay up for that. Plus, it makes buying all the junk, and I mean that in the nicest way, worth it.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's very important to have some anchor books in there, especially if you're expecting a bunch of money, or at least some money,
Yeah.
because when you and I buy and sell all kinds. I'll sell bulk to people all the time, short boxes, long boxes.
Mhm.
But I've got a standard bulk rate that I sell and that I buy, and it's not much. When I sell
Yeah.
bulk, it's not much, and when I buy bulk, it's not for much, because
Mhm.
it's just what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it's important to have those books. And if you are a dealer or wanting to be a dealer, you need to be sharp on, like, all right, these are, and again, let's be honest, you're probably not going to come across much golden age stuff, because there's just not that much of it out there. But like, know your keys from the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. When you look at like 80s and 90s books, there were so many books printed, but so few key issues.
Right.
So you need to know New Mutants 98, Batman Adventures 12, Spider-Man 300. And,
Mhm.
you see sometimes, I'll go to, flea markets a lot, and people have their phone out and like scanning the cover. And like, if you're really doing this serious, you don't really, it needs to be an automatic reaction. Like, you just need to be
Mhm.
like, okay, just on autopilot, like, yes, I saw this. This is good. This is
Yeah.
good. This is good. And there's always those surprises, especially if you're going through a big collection or something. But you need to have like a mental Rolodex, which I mean that's now dated term, but you need to have it up here and on autopilot. So like
Right.
when it happens, you're just going.
Mhm. And I think a big thing too is also like overall like having that like respect for the person that's selling you.
Oh
And
sure.
like being, I think most people when you explain to them like, hey, like listen, like this is the one book that you have that's really making this worth it. Like I even had that over, like speaking of Facebook Marketplace, I did have a transaction back in November, where it was like I noticed, oh my gosh, it's the first appearance of Black Cat.
Oh
And
yeah,
I
I
was like,
remember that. Yeah,
hey, and you actually helped me find something neat about that one that I didn't know when I bought it.
yeah.
Um,
It was the little yellow strip variant at the top. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. And what's funny
yeah,
is I didn't even know that buying it because like the way that the person took the pictures is like you couldn't even see that. But I was like, hey, listen, you've got like 20 books here, like 19 or dollar books, but like this is the one. So like, can we do this? And she was like, oh yeah, sure, that makes sense. Um, but it's also important just to show that respect and communicate. I've told the story so many times, but like I remember distinctly like Nick having someone come in and they're like, "Hey, these are my great uncles. What are they worth? I'm looking to sell for maybe 500." And he looks at it, he's like, "Well, I can't do 500 because you've got the first appearance of Thor in here. So let me make sure I take care of you." Because
yeah,
that was like a
yeah.
huge, it wasn't just that. Like there were many big books in that, but he's like, I'm gonna take care of you." Uh, so I wonder if we could talk about that a little bit too, that important of that like that relationship between like the seller and the buyer.
Yeah, I mean, so if you have a shop or if you're a dealer, I mean, you're obviously going to be generating leads on a
Mhm.
daily, weekly, monthly basis. And I mean, it's very important if someone is contacting you that there is that respect, and also just communicating as much as you can. I mean, you can't lecture them, but you need to make it clear, like, this is a key, or this is not, or condition, all these things. So, and then especially if someone is contacting you, you need to make an offer that is reasonable and respectful,
Mhm.
with being mindful of, you don't want to self-deprecate. Again, you don't want to pay 100% of something, or even 110% of what
Yeah.
something's worth. You need to leave yourself a margin. But it's very important to communicate. Last month there was a collection, and there were two Spidey 238s in there. So that's the first Hobgoblin. And there was also a Daredevil 7, which is the first Red Suit. And those books are notorious for missing pages because Daredevil 7 has a pinup page, and then 238 has the tattoos in it. And they both, he was a guy that got out of collecting, hadn't been doing it for like 10 years, but it still had the old store stickers on it. And I was like, I personally don't trust anyone. Like, let's count the pages and make sure it's there, because and that's being respectful to them, but
Yeah.
also myself, because if a book is incomplete, I mean, it's a point 0.5, in the grading scale of things. So let me make sure that I'm offering you what is fair, but also, like, I'm not slitting my own wrists financially because I'm
Yeah.
not taking the time to open it up. But also, it's like one of those things. Some people, they're really hardcore collectors. Some, they were kind of superficial, and it's like, he was like, I didn't realize that had tattoos, and the person, the persons that they bought them from, thought it was honest and on the level. And again, that's the thing too. And besides making offers as a seller, you need to be mindful and put in the time and effort. Count your pages. Are they any coupons clipped? Is there any restoration? Put a black light on it, so that you're transparent and you're honest about it too. So you're not
Mhm.
overpricing stuff or underpricing stuff.
Right.
So, but yeah, I mean, from a buyer standpoint, try to be as respectful as you can. I personally like to be in a range of between 50 and 60% of what the book
Yeah.
is worth. That being said, if it's a big book, obviously more. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I recently got contacted by someone that had a X-Men 1, and I already have one on my PC, but I didn't get it. I didn't want to offer more than 70%, but my buddy Andy that runs Bonafide Comics, we had talked, on the phone, and that the store actually bought it, and he paid, it was almost 90% of what the book was worth. So, but he got that, but I ended up getting all the other stuff that the guy had, which is more, your bulk, your cheap stuff. But I always need that too, you know what I mean? Because everyone can
Yeah.
afford a dollar book. They might not be able to afford a $7,000 comic book. So,
Right.
it all
Exactly.
it all works, and we should all try to help each other out. You know what I mean? So, um, yeah, I hope that answers your question.
No,
Yeah,
I think it does, and I
yeah.
think it's important. It's important too, like those relationships, even among the dealers. Because like you might have an instance where like, hey, we're not in a, I just bought a collection. I'm not very liquid right now, but I know that so and so could use this right now. Or,
Oh yeah.
um, I remember too, like the flexibility thing being important. I remember, Nick had on his website that like, hey, I will travel anywhere within the Southeast within 24 hours. And obviously, if there was an exception, like something personal, God, I know he wouldn't do that. But like, I think that just showed that, hey, if you've got something worth it, and like you show me some pictures, like I will come to you. You know, I know you probably have to do a lot of traveling here and there within some of these books.
Oh yeah, yeah. And gosh, there are certain times that you travel a long way, and then what they said was there isn't there.
Hmm.
I've I mean, I've dealt with some crazy hoarder houses, some really unsettling things.
Hmm.
Yeah, but I mean, you do have to be willing to, jump when the time is right. There was, again, this was just last month, but a person contacted me. They had a few books, but one of them was a Spidey 300, and I'm like, okay. And they're like, well, I want to sell it tonight. I have bills and this and that. And it's like, okay, we'll jump in the car and go.
Hmm.
So that is one thing about doing this. If you're doing it full time, is you do need to have a liquid schedule that's very fluid. And
Hmm.
I mean, you just have to be able to, you got to bend until you break almost sometimes. So,
Yeah.
you just got to do it. Yeah. So,
When there are other dealers out there. So someone's like, Chris is kind of taking his time getting back to me. He said he can meet me on Saturday, but it's Monday now. Maybe I'll call
oh
Heroes, or
yeah,
maybe I'll call, not to name drop, but there are so many other dealers that you could find.
absolutely. Yeah.
So you got to be on your toes a little bit. Um,
Yeah. The time is always right now. Like, and
yeah,
so much of life is like that too. Like if you
yeah,
wait around, I mean, the early bird gets the worm, I think is the cliche phrase. And like, jump when someone says jump, you need to jump. So
exactly.
yeah.
Do you think there's any like big misconceptions about this like I almost said hobby, about like this profession? Because I think, um like I've seen videos here and there of people being like, oh, I found this at a flea market. I found this at a garage sale randomly, and we talked off camera about some of your own personal stories. But I imagine that happens not like more often that doesn't happen than it does happen, right? Those are very rare to just stumble upon like a Batman 251 or a big key just randomly out in the wild.
Yeah, I think the now I just want to preface real quick. I have found a Hulk 181 at a yard sale. Sarah picked up a Batman 251 at a yard sale. I mean, we've at a flea market, I've picked up 4 Batman Adventures 12s at one time. This just sounds like bragging, but the key to it is it's a volume game. And I say that with like, collections too, with like as many collections that are brought to you or you go check out, with for every like yard sale or flea market you go to, let's say you go to 100 of them, you might have like one solid win.
Mhm.
So it's all a volume game, just like when people contact you about collections that they're wanting to sell or that you go check out. They're not all going to be good. Honestly, most of the time you're going to fail, and most
Mhm.
of the time the collections are going to be disappointing or overpriced, or there's a flea market, and culture has kind of changed too, even with that. So Sarah and I do so many conventions that we don't have a lot of weekends free, but like if we have a Saturday or Sunday free, we're out there doing it.
Mhm.
And this is like a hangover, I feel like, from the COVID era, where before COVID there was a lot of people willing to have yard sales, maybe set up at flea markets. And after it, it's less and less and less. And I think that's sort of like a reflection on just culture and stuff too, like physical media. It's
Yeah.
less of a thing. But with going out and finding stuff, whether it was 10 years ago, whether it was 10 minutes ago, diligence is always going to be key to what you're doing. And it's very easy to get discouraged. Um, it's really easy, but like the stuff is out there. Okay. Like,
Yeah.
again, I found a Hope 181 at a yard sale before. Sarah's found amazing stuff. It's out there. You just have to be willing to do it. And if you fail, you have to be like, well, I'll try again next time. So
Yeah.
you can't take those fails to heart. And like when something hits really hard, you need to hold on to that and kind of wallow in the feeling, because a win is a win. um, and it is few and far between.
Mhm.
But it's just a volume game. You just got to
Right.
get out there and do it. We have
Well, you
a very
mentioned.
go ahead, Tyler.
Oh, go ahead. You're good.
No, like with when Sarah and I do have weekend free, or one of the weekend days open, we stick to a pretty strict route.
Good.
And we've finalized it, and kind of we've been doing it for a long time. So from one town all the way back home, we've got something that's really efficient. So yeah, community sales are usually the most fun.
Mhm.
And you can just ping pong back and forth. um, there's this really cool thing up in Virginia called Hillsville. And it used to be, they claimed it was like the biggest flea market on the East Coast. It's since, again, after COVID, it's
Right.
really shrunk down. But the first year I went with my buddy Josh, just walking and asking, and a guy, I was like, "You have any comic books?" And he had a New Mutants 98. That was the only one he had. And the price was very good. So it's like, okay, take it, go.
Yeah.
But yeah, so just advice for people, like, don't expect to win. And if you are, you need to communicate. Like, let's say you go to a yard sale or a flea market, don't expect the stuff to be out on the table. Like
Yeah.
that Hulk 181 that I was referencing, I got at a yard sale. They didn't even have it out. You just have to ask. It's like, oh well, I do have that. I didn't
Mhm.
think about selling it. And they bring out a box full of bugs, but there's a Hulk 181 in it too. So communication so important, and just diligence is even
Yeah.
more important.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a huge thing, just even as throughout this discussion about just like diligence about knowing what keys are, knowing, when you're flipping through, like, oh, this is worth it. This isn't, flipping through books. This is a lot, you have to do a lot of paying attention in this, it seems like.
Yeah, and hey, I'm just gonna give everyone a little quick like cheat code here too. Like, counting pages of books is incredibly important, and the easiest way to do it is it's 8 to the centerfold, 8 after the centerfold, and the centerfold is where the staples come through. Now,
Mhm.
of course, there's exceptions because there's annuals and giant size, but pretty much if it was a book published from the 60s to now, it's probably going to have 16 pieces of paper total inside of that, not including the cover. So I mean, if you're curious, like, is this book complete? I don't want to spend $1,000. Is it worth $1,000? Is it worth $100? Is it worth $10? Count your pages.
Nice. Well, I wanted to. I always like to kind of like wrap up with something like somewhat unrelated, but still
Okay.
related.
Okay.
So I know you and Sarah must do a lot of driving with this, whether it's at conventions or flea markets and all that. Do you have any other like a guilty pleasure fast food or a guilty pleasure snack that like keeps you fueling during all this?
Ooh. Well, I will say this, and this is very childish, but I have really gotten, and it's a little an unhealthy obsession, but going to shows, like if you're driving and it's very late or
Mhm.
very early, excuse me, I love some cheese sticks. I'm a big
Oh,
fan of
nice.
cheese sticks.
Yeah.
Yeah. But as far as fast food and stuff, now I will say this, Tyler, again, if you're trying to be financially conscious of your, whatever your overhead, bring your lunch, okay? Bring your
Yeah.
lunch, because a lot of shows don't have food on site, and I think it's very important for conventions to have stuff there, because if there's food there, the patrons are probably going to stick around longer. But
Hmm.
for Nerd Fest, we always hit up the cookout that's right around the corner,
Oh,
and
yes. Yeah.
I've always been a fan of cookouts since they put one in Monroe when I was in high school, and I was like, "What is this?" And it's still pretty cheap. If you can find one where you can sit inside, it's nice. So yeah, I guess that would be like a guilty
Yeah.
pleasure. Um,
It's a nice
yeah.
reward too if you have a good show, you can get a shake on the way home or something like that.
Oh, I hear you. Yeah, and that is something. I mean, you do need to give back to yourself a little bit. Like if you do have a good show, like whatever. But I'm trying to think of some other places, to eat or whatever. Again, I'm kind of
I gotta find
I'm
where I
thinking.
wrote it down. There was a guy we were talking about oh my there's a it was Johnny who does Deadpool was on a couple episodes ago,
Okay.
and he said there's a place in Canapolis or Concord that he goes to a lot that does like really good like donuts and have this particular sandwich, but I can't remember. And I thought I wrote it down. I can't find it now.
Well,
Um,
Concord, I should know that
I know
because
that's what I was
that's where
saying.
I'm at. Yeah.
But I can't find. I cannot find it. What I wrote where I wrote it down, which is disappointing. So I'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay.
Um, Do you? I know you and do you and Sarah? I know you guys have done like you guys have performed and all that. Do you have the same like when you're driving the same music taste on the road? Like if you play anything on the radio or like podcast or Spotify, you guys pretty much in line. My wife and I are not in line musically, so that's why I ask because we were
Yeah, I
definitely
would
not.
say so. Yeah, I would say. And again, it's always speaking of treats and stuff out on the road. It's always very. It's awesome when Sarah and I get to go to an event together. Because a lot of the time we're tag teaming. I'm going one
Mhm.
place, she's going to another, and we've got like an old dog, so I mean we can't be
Yeah,
too far away for too long and stuff. But no, I mean, we used to play in a band together and stuff, so we're pretty with it. I will say this: early in the morning when you're getting going, a little bit of talk radio is good because you're more so listening to it and you want to be lucid and aware of your
right.
surroundings. But no, I would say we're pretty cool. There's never like and we've been together for over 2 decades, and we have never had like turn it off or whatever. Well, one exception: Sarah does not like Guns N' Roses. So if there's Guns
Mm,
N' Roses on the radio, yeah, she just
yeah,
Axl Rose. She just does not like him as a
right.
vocalist. And I hear you. I mean, I get it. I get it. Yeah, but
Well,
no,
I'm
we're two peas in
only
a
when
pod.
I'm my only when I'm very good is my wife does a lot of driving because she gets like motion sickness when she's not driving. So she'll do a lot of driving, and only when I'm very good is Bob Dylan allowed to be played in her car. Like she'll be like, "Oh, so she'll play some Bob Dylan, but mostly it's like she listens to a lot of she's kind of all over the place, but she listens to a lot more modern stuff than I do. Her people are actually like in their 30s as opposed to mine who are like, probably on AARP.
Or
But
dead. Or
or
dead,
dead.
Tyler.
Yeah. Well, the reason we've talked about this the other day, Tim will be at the show. I will not be at MicroCon, even though I hate that I'm going to miss it. I'm going to be seeing the boss on May 2nd.
It's awesome,
Um,
man. Yeah.
so I'm excited, but also like your con is one of my favorite ones. So, I am definitely gonna miss it.
Well, we will miss you being there, but I mean, seeing him sounds you're gonna have more fun. I can guarantee that. Yeah. So,
I thought about it
um,
briefly. I was like, can I make it work? Can I do both? And I was like, this would probably just focus on one.
well, yeah, you'll probably be at the Kannapolis Microcon, I bet,
I'll be there, and
this
I think we'll
August.
be in Monroe,
Okay.
and I'm sure
Okay.
Tim will make some purchases, and more deal. I feel like with having at a brewery, the deals probably get better the longer the show goes on, because like maybe dealers become a bit more, you know, they're like, oh,
I
who cares about
mean,
margins? Let's
yeah, yeah. I would say it doesn't hurt, and yeah, it could be a deal lubricant for sure. Yeah.
right.
One
Not
thing
to
I will
imply that
say,
everyone's getting like crazy at this convention, because that's not at all the implication. I think people
yeah,
might have one or two, but
yeah. Throughout all the years, we've never really had too many party fouls either. There was one dealer that wasn't. Well, he's not even a dealer anymore. He only did it for a little while. He kind of bumped into another dealer's wall. Nothing really bad happened, but it's like
yeah,
everyone's been pretty tame and pretty positive and stuff. But yeah, I just love using those like breweries as a venue. I absolutely love it, man.
yeah. And can you remind us of the day one more time, just so we're on the same page for everybody?
May 2nd, twenty
May
twenty
2nd,
six. Yeah, yeah.
10th
It's
anniversary.
10th anniversary. Yeah, so it'll be at Carbarrus Brewing Company, which is, I mean, it's right in the heart of downtown Concord. It's part of Gibson Mill. Yeah, 325 McGill Avenue. It's from 11 until 5 p.m. It is all ages. It is free admission. And it's a good time. It's about 70 vendors when you add up both rooms and then the artists and stuff upstairs as well. Yeah.
Nice.
So, Tyler, I do want to, can I show off one book real quick?
Oh yes, sorry. I
Okay.
meant to. We meant to show off some books. Yes.
So I just want to show off one. So, I've got a big personal collection myself, a little over 20,000 books. And I call it, well, look, it's really awesome when what you're doing for a living can support your hobby.
Hmm.
Um, and, like how you have equity in your home, you build
Yeah.
equity. Yeah. So I call it like your collequity. Okay. And so you're not really spending money, like because what you're doing for work is paying for the stuff. And I think
Right.
that is ultimately the best you can do too when you're doing this kind of stuff. But I could dig out a bunch of stuff. But this is an Avengers 2. That glare is terrible, but it's a double
Oh
cover.
no, looks great.
Yeah. So the first cover is a 5.0 and the interior cover is a 6.0, and it's one of those things. I collect Mark Jewelers and stuff too, but I
Hmm.
love double covers. And good luck finding another Avengers 2 that's a double cover. I
Yeah.
challenge you, viewers at home, find one.
Well, I remember that's one thing we talked about in the Comics 101 last year was like, we did a deeper dive into variants, and like that's a variant right there, right? It's a
Oh
double
yeah,
cover,
absolutely, yeah.
misprints, all that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's a whole
And
nother world.
and not to bring it back to what you were talking about, what makes something valuable, this is a prime example of that too, because it is outside the realm of the normal book. A book like this, I mean, how are you going to price it? Because find another one. It's not a Avengers 2 that's just a 6.0, it's a double cover.
Yeah,
So I mean,
that's really cool.
yeah, that can be a multiplier of 2, 3, 10. I mean, it just depends. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, sweet. We'll have to continue this. Maybe we'll make it a yearly thing, or twice a year. We can do a deeper dive into another comic book thing, because just there's so many things we could talk about. So,
I'm all about it.
um, yeah. Well, thank you for taking us to school, and we're looking forward to the Concord Micro Con in less than a month now.
Yep, May 2nd. See you guys
Yep.
there.
All right. See you there. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.